I've spent the past week swimming in spoiler soup, and I've emerged with 10 cards from Tarkir Dragonstorm that stole my attention, broke my brain, and demanded a deck. This is Weirdly Specific, a weekly series where we explore niche nonsense and narrow picks, and today we're counting down 10 cards from spoiler week 1 that are already warping my deck lists and probably yours. Let's dive in. Fangkeeper's familiar. There's lots of comparisons with Frilled Mystic, but that's missing the point somewhat. Yes, it can counter, but it also destroys enchantments, and I've played enough of our beautiful game and held onto an omniscience on the field for far too long in a game to know that more enchantment removal is needed. If it didn't have Surveil 3 and gain 3 on it, gain 3 life, it would be terrible. The other modes are reactive, so with that mode at least it's always useful. I feel like this does so much. Players are far too focused on that counterspell part. I think it has the legs, well, not actual legs because it's a snake, but I think it has the legs to be a slithering, sneaky hit. Tempest Technique. I shall replace my urge to get Viking with my language with this one, such as my joy at its existence. This is a masterpiece. Even if only 2 spells are cast before this, that's a +9/+9. That feels illegal. I have a Gilwain deck that I adore, but I feel like it spins its wheels a bit, and this is the sort of epic combat win and finisher for that type of deck. Players often forget that Storm counts any player casting spells before the copying ensues. I've been running Amphibian Downpour in 2 of my enchantment synergy decks for that reason. They are so efficient, and this card also lets you choose to go tall or wide and spread out the copies. In my Gilwain deck, that creates an enchantment when 1 or 2 mana bodies hit the field. I can have 15 enchants on the board, no problem at all. Counting the wild growths and enchantment creatures, etc. So think how huge everything will get. Multiple enchant ETBs and power boosts. Oh my, I need 4 of these straight away. Steward of the Harvest. This pick is for the brewers out there. Nothing in our wacky races trip to Aetherdrift really made me feel the way that this card makes me feel. This is all my creatures are fetch lands. All my creatures are Cabal Coffers. All my creatures are Maze of Ifs. This card is nuts. If I'm understanding this right, Scoot Swarm that have the activated ability of fetch lands will let you fetch all the lands from your library and make more scoots, and this continues until you run out of lands from your library. I do feel that this is better in a mill deck. The lands still need to get in the yard, so even my Mothman and Ruka Morel Grim Captain decks will love this, as both of them have shifting woodland. All my creatures can copy permanents in my yard. This is why I play EDH. That's bananas. Every creature is a mana dork. At best, is game-ending nonsense. At the deepest, dankest dregs of an idea, all creatures are strip mines, which is gross. Voracious Bibliophile. The internal barometer for is this a good card tends to gain credence for me based on how many decks in my current roster will I want with this, which provides a numerical value. And if I top up the maths, the answer for this card is any of them with blue. Flying Vigilance, 3/4 for 4 mana is already solid. But then they slapped on whenever you cast a spell with 1 or more targets. Draw that many cards, not a card. And did they forget to add the this triggers once per turn clause that they love throwing on things? This isn't just good in the right deck, this is ridiculous in almost any deck running interaction. My Orvar Bobbleheads deck is salivating. Anything with counterspell support is desperately in love with this. My copy of Sea King's Blessing, which targets multiple things, draws me a card for each of those targets. Even the new Rite of Renewal draws us 6 cards and recurs 2 from the graveyard. And with all this self-mill shenanigans that Tarkir provides, I could even see C double being a spicy pickup. 2 different targets, both copying, draw 2 cards, solid. Expect to see it everywhere. Magmatic Hellkite. As a firm believer that Armageddon is the white crater hoof, it's controversial, way to finish the job for a particular colour, I adore this dragon, which destroys a non-basic, but doesn't wimp out on the landing by giving the basic land that follows temporary land denial with a stun counter. Players of Magic, please use land hate. Wizards keep giving us the best lands, fun lands, lands that win games. One of those lands is going to be in this top 10. Green runs rampant in our format, and Magmatic Hellkite is there to provide much needed control. Embrace him, and you can flicker it for value, hit problem lands like Nykthos, Cabal Coffers, Gaia's Cradle if you happen to have an old man, or Millionaire in your playgroup. It's tempo control without feel bads, and we can proliferate that stun counter if you so wish, you monster you. Mistrise Village. And here it is, the land you will want to destroy with that dragon, making a spell uncountable for 1 mana, although it's effectively 2 because you've got to have 2 lands tapped. It sounds really strong, but I think it's format dependent. In Commander, count spells are less common, or should I say less impactful, with 3 sets of spells to contain with. In a 60-card format, there's more 1/1 trading going on. We are prepaying 2 extra mana, and that isn't great, but I am told in other formats that this will be amazing. CEDH cousins are joyful, and understandably so. Prepayment before the combo win is ace. Though again, those games maybe don't go so long that tapping 2 lands on top of their spells costs making sense. But better minds will know. Put them in the comments, please. But for me, this shines in a very niche way as a way to get around non-extra mana ward costs like Sauron and Valgavoth and their sack wards. I also see it as a big late game finisher protector in EDH rather than early game protector. A one-off, something extra to seal the deal. Time will tell, because this is all hypothesis at the moment, I haven't played with the card, but it has piqued my interest. Qarsi Revenant. Back in the day, a series of articles grouped the virtues of different cards based on their animal archetypes, and the most impactful of these was the rattlesnake category. This principle was that certain cards would tell your opponents to attack elsewhere, or they might potentially lose resources. In fact, 2024 was the year of the rattlesnake, with Karlov Manor and Dustmourne leaning into Manifest Dread, and Cloak making them less desirable targets. Who knew what monstrosities were lurking below all those face-down cards? And here we have the purest form of the rattlesnake, Death Touch, which holds off all sorts of aggression. Vampire Nighthawk has long been a rattlesnake in my black decks, but this is way better. Often, someone will bite the bullet and they'll swing something in to get rid of this, but be the hero the table needs. But this 3/3 flying Death Touch lifelink has the renew mechanic, which gifts the Death Touch keyword, meaning here we go again, more Death Touch and more keep away. It's not flashy, but its base level strength fits into nearly any black deck. And therefore, I will need 5 of these already. Plus, with all these self-mill strategies, I love it for that. Mono black mid-range, auto include. You get a solid blocker, lifelink stabilizer, and what it represents keeps coming back. This is staple status, and you're going to see it everywhere. Voice of Victory. Grand Abolisher's scrappy brawler cousin that shrugs off a shock. What we have here is a card that goes into an aggro shell, it goes into a combo shell, 3 power go wide attacks, and don't interfere with my plans on my turn tech. Najeela is going to gobble this up, which can be said for many of the Mardu cards in the set. This is also easier to cast than Grand Abolisher. It just feels the offensive boost makes it better, especially in Canlander's spikier Selesnya builds that feature the Twin Thalias. It's pretty scary, and both GA and this will be in Standard, so gird your loins. Teval's Judgement. At first, this feels like the Bizarro World Monument to Endurance, and it's very much the next layer after you've discarded to the yard, so there is a lovely tortured existence synergy going on here. Discard to the yard, bring something back from the yard, a buffet of 6 triggered abilities between those 2 cards. Until Aether Drift, discard wasn't getting the payoffs, it has now, but for Teval, there's tons of graveyard interaction, so we can trigger it plenty of times. Any commander who reanimates like this, especially Anik Fear that I built for the channel last year, and this is an enchantment which she absolutely cares about. I want to reanimate and copy this, please. Verena has an exile ability, and she's in my roster taking over from Temet, so if you have that precon, it's a great time to upgrade. Muldrotha does Muldrotha things, Ketramos with Graveyard Exile like Scrabbling Claws and Cling to Dust, And the important part is this can happen on everyone's turn. This is tons of value. Disa, Necrobloom, trust me, this is a Reanimator staple, and again, I will take 4. Naga Fleshcrafter. Referencing back to Qarsi and the Rattlesnake theory, a clone that comes in and copies the best and biggest brute on the field absolutely deters attack, so it shares that, but it is so much more. This is a simply better clone because of what it represents in the late game. There's a lovely through line of finishes in Tarkir, game's got to end, enablers, and this again is a brewer's dream. There are the memes. Everything is an ancient copper dragon where you get repetitive strain injury from rolling all those dice, but also this is where all your Thopters become a sharding sphinx, or all your gingerbread men become angels of destiny, sudden flyers, and flyers win games. The clone can die and still be useful, or milled and still be useful, and I can hear on future wins the rules discussions and furious tappings of mobile phones to Google insane rules for black spots when this amazing new card comes and does its thing. Tarkir Dragonstorm is just getting started, but these 10 already have me sleeving up nonsense and dreaming of combos. If you enjoyed this humble free content today, a like and subscribe would mean the world to me, and I will see you on the next one.